Welcome back, horror enthusiasts. Today, we have a very special video for you. We have prepared a spine-chilling horror story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. So, grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and get ready to be scared out of your wits. Our story takes place in a small town on the outskirts of a dense forest. The town is known for its peaceful environment and friendly people. However, as the sun sets, the town becomes eerily quiet, and strange things start to happen. Our protagonist is a young woman named Sarah. She has recently moved to the town to escape her troubled past and start a new life. Sarah is a quiet and reserved person who keeps to herself. She works as a librarian in the town's only library and spends most of her time reading books. One night, Sarah was closing up the library when she heard a strange noise coming from the forest. It sounded like someone was whispering her name. She ignored it at first, thinking it was just her imagination, but the noise persisted. She decided to investigate and grabbed a flashlight from the library's storage room. As she walked towards the forest, the noise became louder and more distinct. She could hear someone calling out to her. She shone her flashlight towards the source of the noise and saw a figure standing in the distance. It was a tall, slender figure with long hair and a pale face. Sarah couldn't make out any features, but she could feel its eyes piercing into her soul. Suddenly, the figure disappeared into the darkness, and Sarah was left alone in the forest. She quickly made her way back to the library, but she couldn't shake off the feeling that she was being followed. After the incident in the forest, Sarah started experiencing nightmares. Every night, she would dream of the figure she saw in the forest, and it would be calling out to her. The nightmares were so vivid that she could feel the figure's cold breath on her face. She tried to brush it off, thinking it was just her mind playing tricks on her. However, things started to take a turn for the worse. Sarah began to experience unexplained events around her. Books would fall off the shelves, and the lights would flicker on and off. She would hear footsteps following her, but when she turned around, there was no one there. One day, Sarah was closing up the library when she saw the figure again. It was standing in front of the library's entrance, staring at her with its lifeless eyes. She tried to run, but her feet felt like they were glued to the ground. The figure started walking towards her, and Sarah was frozen in fear. As the figure got closer, Sarah could see its face more clearly. It was a woman's face, and she looked familiar. Sarah realized that it was the woman who used to work in the library before her. She had disappeared mysteriously a few years ago, and no one knew what had happened to her. The woman's ghost had been haunting the library ever since her disappearance. She had been trying to communicate with Sarah, but Sarah was too scared to listen. The ghost had been trying to tell Sarah that she was in danger and that she needed to leave the town as soon as possible. Sarah knew that she needed to find out what had happened to the woman and put her spirit to rest. She started investigating the woman's disappearance, but all she could find were dead ends. No one in the town wanted to talk about the woman, and Sarah was met with hostility whenever she brought up the subject. One day, Sarah stumbled upon an old newspaper article that mentioned the woman's disappearance. The article stated that the woman had been last seen in the forest, just like Sarah had seen the ghost. Sarah knew that there was a connection between the two incidents, and she decided to explore the forest further. As she delved deeper into the forest, Sarah discovered an old cabin that had been abandoned for years. The cabin was in a state of disrepair, and it looked like no one had lived there for a long time. Sarah felt a sense of unease as she entered the cabin. She could feel the ghost's presence all around her. As she looked around the cabin, Sarah discovered a hidden room. The room was locked, but Sarah managed to break the lock open. Inside the room, she found a journal that belonged to the woman who had disappeared. The journal contained chilling entries about the woman's experiences in the forest. The woman had been researching the paranormal activity in the forest, and she had discovered a portal to another dimension. She had been experimenting with the portal, and one day, she had vanished without a trace. Sarah realized that the ghost was trying to warn her about the portal and the dangers it posed. As Sarah was leaving the cabin, she felt a presence behind her. She turned around and saw the ghost standing in front of her. The ghost started to communicate with Sarah, telling her about the portal and how dangerous it was. The ghost also told Sarah that she needed to close the portal to prevent any more harm. Sarah knew that she had to act fast. She went back to the library and did some research on the portal. She found out that the portal could be closed with a special ritual, and she gathered all the necessary ingredients. That night, Sarah went back to the forest and performed the ritual. As she chanted the incantations, she could feel the ground beneath her shaking. The sky turned dark, and the wind started to pick up. She could hear screams coming from the portal, but she didn't stop chanting. After what felt like an eternity, the portal finally closed. Sarah was relieved and exhausted, but she knew that she had done the right thing. The ghost appeared before her one last time and thanked her for her bravery. The ghost then disappeared into the ether, and Sarah was left alone in the forest. Sarah knew that she could never forget the horrors she had experienced in that small town. She had faced her fears and had come out victorious. She left the town, knowing that she had done the right thing and had put the woman's ghost to rest. Years later, Sarah had moved on with her life, but she still remembered the events that had transpired in the forest. She knew that the portal could have caused unimaginable harm to the town and the people in it. She felt a sense of pride that she had been able to prevent the disaster from happening. And that, my dear viewers, is our horror story for today. We hope that you enjoyed it and that it gave you the chills. Remember to always keep your wits about you and be aware of the unknown. Until next time, stay safe and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more spine-chilling stories.